That's how that should have started. I should have had you hit record, then say you're doing the intro, and then I go, ha, crap, like I just did. Anyway. Hello and welcome. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. I'm going to do that again. I literally just channeled Steve. I was about to say from the world of, could you hear it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now that you pointed it out, I can see where you're going. Yeah.
Give me a second. That's stuck in my head. Welcome to brAVe Skills. brAVe. Got it. I'm good now. Regular Leon is here. Hello, AV Tweeps and AV. What the heck? All right, I got it one more time.
You had it. That was right.
No, you don't know what I was about to say. I was about to say AV Tweeps and AV Tweepettes. Right? Like that's something we've ever said.
That's kind of adorable.
I'm going to dial the energy right back. Yeah, I'm going to dial the energy back. I have no idea where all this energy is coming from. It's late at night. Here we go. I'm good now. Oh, good thing we got some bloopers already. Hello, AV Tweeps, and welcome to brAVe Space, or in this case, brAVe Skills. brAVe Skills is the practical offshoot of the brAVe Space podcast, where we talk with each other about all things leadership, corporate culture, and generally being a good human, we like to say. I'm Leon Prather.
And I'm Britt Yenser.
And before we get started, we have a few disclaimers for you. First and foremost, the opinions that we express here are not necessarily those of our sponsors or organizations or other people that aren't us. And we also aren't necessarily subject matter experts in all things we're talking about, but we are going to express our opinions, and we would certainly welcome you to receive those and maybe even argue with them if you felt like you needed to. But without further ado, I think we can just get on with the episode.
So in this episode, we are going to talk about choosing rest. So this episode comes to us in this sort of series of ideas that we had. They'll kind of cascade one into the next. In a previous episode, we talked about asking for help. And I think if you have asked for help, you've gotten things done, but you're still feeling a little burnt. Well, now it's time, my friend, to choose rest. So let's get into it. Leon, talk to me about choosing rest. When do you know it is time to rest?
So I just read something about this concept because I'll probably express a hot take on this during this episode, but we've mentioned before that burnout is a thing, and there's signs that may be coming. The point to realize that you need rest now, as I'm getting older, as I've been doing management or leadership for a long time, now that I'm a dad, I'm thinking more about being proactive with the concept of rest and not saying, well, I'm starting to feel the symptoms of burnout, therefore I probably need to rest. Now what I'm trying to do more of is what I think is a little bit more of a mature concept of just saying rest needs to be regularly incorporated into my life. It just needs to be regularly incorporated. And if it's not, then I'm not being proactive. I'm being reactive, which is always going to be more of an uphill climb to fix whatever it is I'm trying to fix with rest. It's always going to be more difficult. So what's the answer for me on when do I need rest? Every day. I need rest every day. Literally, and maybe everyone's a little bit different. And I'm not talking about sleep specifically. That's a big part of it. But I need it every day. And I need to find a way to incorporate that every day. And I think there's physical and mental aspects here. And so I think you probably just agree with what I'm saying, but I'd ask, do you have a different sorry, my daughter's laughing in the background. And I'm sad that you probably can't hear it, but it's pretty funny. Heck, I'll say right there, that's actually one of my rest signals that actually helps me. At the end of the workday, my wife will always have she'll start going, Dada. My wife will. Dada. Then I hear my daughter yelling, um, Dada, it's time to come play with me. I'm like, I got to sign off, everybody. It's time for me to
Mhm.
go. But no, anyway, long-winded way of just saying, I think it's something I have to incorporate every day. Um, and maybe my routine's different from folks. Do you have a routine for you?
I don't know that I have a routine right now. I think every day is different for me in this moment. Um, I very much am leaning into what my energy level is that day, or even just that moment, and
Mhm.
kind of accepting that and moving with it, and making it a point to not push myself past the limit that my body is giving me, which is
I was gonna say context
wildly.
for those who may not have been following some of these episodes. Why are you saying that, Britt? Just in case
Oh,
someone's been gone.
yeah, because I am very, very pregnant.
Mhm,
I'm in my 8th month of pregnancy right now. So
mhm,
almost, we're at the home stretch. We're almost
mhm,
done with this physical journey, but as you get deeper and deeper into pregnancy, for me it was like I can feel the energy drain. I can feel how my body has shifted. And before we were recording, Leon and I were talking about like how I had to modify even certain physical things or choose to not do physical things. I joke that if it falls on the ground, that's where it lives now, unless someone else
mhm.
picks it up. I'm not getting it. That is dead to me now.
Mhm.
So just just leaning into truly where I'm at and not pushing it. But one thing that I love that you said was being proactive versus reactive. While I guess you could argue I'm being reactive because I'm like going with the flow. Um, but I don't know. There's something about that feels different. And I guess it's because, like, in my work, in my technical role, I often push people and ask them, how can we be proactive and not reactive? Like
Mhm.
how we have tickets coming in, things break. Like, how can we anticipate things better? And how can we get ahead of things before the ticket even comes in? We've addressed it. So, like, I'm often pushing people to be proactive, but when it comes to like taking time off and resting and giving myself a break up until the point of pregnancy, I was less likely to be proactive.
Yeah, I mean, our situations change all the time,
Mhm.
and, you find yourself in a new one, and your perspective just shifts, I think. I thought it would be great for us to talk about this because I think it's central. I think it's just central to life for all of us. And if we're leaders, we especially if no shade. I promise for listeners here, I'm not throwing shade at anyone if they aren't a parent or married. That's not where I'm going with this. If you are someone that has either, I'll say, made the time, I don't want to say just has the time, but has made the time in your life to have maybe a few a few priorities. uh you could prioritize a lot of things, but you're choosing to prioritize a few, and you maybe don't feel that you have a lot of different things pulling on your time, but you've given a lot of your time to certain things. So for a lot of us that might be work.
Mhm.
um I've known some managers and had some managers who have mentioned that they will work way longer hours than they would expect me to because I have a family.
Mhm.
And they're just choosing, and they'll say it. They're like, "I'm choosing to spend more time because I can, and this is not what I expect of you." And this would be someone that maybe didn't have a family, and like they were just like, for them, they just did a lot of their 9 to 5 for more hours. And it was a choice. So where I was going was, um, when that's the case, I think sometimes people can fall into a trap of saying, "I need to perform, and I cannot perform unless I'm on all the time." That may not be everybody, but it is something I think people say. That hot take I was mentioning, I found myself actually getting a little bit frustrated the other day thinking about some. There are other leadership podcasts out there, folks. They do exist, and we're not the only game in town on that. But some of them, I was like, these are not. This is hogwash advice that we're giving because we're telling people things like you just got to keep grinding. If you don't grind, why you can't expect to achieve. This is how I got to where I am. You should try to do what I do. And my brain hears all that and says, I'm not really so interested in knowing how someone got to where they are. Because in the end, what's the outcome going to be? Is this person going to fall apart? It's great that they got to that platform or that plateau or wherever they got to, but I don't think the practice that they're talking about is sustainable. You just got to keep
No.
grinding, don't sleep, work 80 hours a day. You can't even do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Not only is that not sustainable and the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard, but it is not productive. And I hate to use like the corporate terminology of rest is productive, but when we think about the reality of how does the human brain work, okay, there's a reason that some of your best ideas come to you in the shower or right before you're about to fall asleep. You have an aha moment. It's because when the brain is allowed to rest, it is then able to be creative and have an idea and a spark. If you are constantly overstimulating yourself with the grind and always like thinking about something and you don't give yourself the time and space to just like turn it off, not only are you going to burn out, but you're not going to have the best result that you can have.
Yeah. This is a concept that I think athleticism like directly relates to. People that are athletes or folks that work out a lot, they take rest. It's a regular part of their day. If they're a high performing athlete, they rest because they know that physically, you said corporate, there's a corporate jargon bit here, but that whole rest is productive thing, it's not really just a corporate thing. It's a scientific thing. It's a medical thing. The body, our muscles repair themselves during periods of rest. So they have micro tears in them and everything when we do a lot of heavy lifting and all that. That's just sort of part of training. We're not hurting ourselves, but our bodies need to repair. And they can do that during the rest time. They cannot do that if we're constantly on. So you end up with overuse, you end up with injury, you end up with things that are altogether what you wanted to avoid in the first place. And those things end up preventing you from being productive later. So it's like rest is not, it shouldn't be seen as an option. It should just be seen as a regular part of life. And maybe culturally we don't talk enough about that. I would argue that probably a big sign of that is the fact that we talk more about mental health today than we probably ever did. Now, there's positives and negatives to that. The positive is we've just never thought about it as much as we should, but it's also something where we're having to talk about more, I think, because we don't do enough rest. It's not the only thing, not the only reason, but I don't think we do enough rest. I don't think we do rest well. And we're not maybe encouraged to do so, or haven't been, I should say, culturally encouraged to do so. And that's just not a good place to be. The managers that I was talking about before, who I thought were great managers, this is one of those things that I would say as an underling of them, I would say, I don't think that's a good example to give, actually. And I don't think it's healthy for you. You're an adult and you can make all your own choices. I'm just saying, I think there should be something else going on in your life than the grind. Like I can see on your face, like you're not looking so great. And they're like, "Oh, I'm doing awesome. I'm doing awesome. How are you?" I'm like, how long are you going to keep this up? Like I'm concerned for you and you don't report to me. That there's a lie. I think we tell ourselves that we just have to perform constantly. I think the truth is that we should want to perform consistently. I don't think we can without rest. My wife actually just knocked on the door. She was about to bring my daughter in, And I was like, no, not right now. Because literally we won't get through this episode if my daughter comes in. We will just be like, oh, look, she's so cute.
That will derail us.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I have not elected to put my daughter on camera on a show, though she would love to do so. We may at some point once we both have our children. Who knows?
Yeah.
But there's a funny concept. Do you know what Hurkle-Durkle is?
No.
Of course you don't. And I would love to tell you. So there's this concept from the 1800s called Hurkle-Durkle. I guarantee not a single person listening to this podcast knows about it. And it's from Scotland, I think. And a Hurkle-Durkle is really just a period of time where you spend doing something restful at the start of your day.
Okay.
I don't know where this has gone. I don't think people in Scotland do this today. If you're listening in from Scotland, please tell us if you do. But the idea is you are, you wake up in the morning, and before you get started with your daily grind or routine or whatever, instead of hitting the alarm, getting the shower right away, heading out to work immediately, you stop for a second and you do something like cuddle up in your blanket for a moment, read 2 pages out of a book, something like that, something small. And this is funny because you also just slept. You were just sleeping. So in theory, you were resting, but maybe you weren't. But the Hurkle-Durkle, as funny as it sounds, is cool to me because it's an intentional thing that you're doing for rest. And I mentioned the idea of my daughter. There's a reason, because we Hurkle-Durkle. We have a Hurkle-Durkle in the morning now. And I've never used that term, and I'm now going to, and she's going to love it. I wake up in the morning and I don't even wake up to my alarm now because my daughter is my alarm. She wakes me up before my alarm consistently, an hour ahead of my alarm all the time. But she'll just be kind of cooing and talking and stuff. And I think it's amazing. And I'm up earlier than I have to be. And I just choose not to be frustrated. And I grab her and she gets in the bed with me. And we just spend time together before I have to get started with the day. And it's such a recharge. It's so awesome. So I would encourage everybody to find some way to do a Hurkle-Durkle every once in a while.
Yeah, I love that. And openly encourage people to rest sometimes or slow down. Like sometimes there's a rest in just slowing down your pace. And I have done that purposefully at work where, I've joked with people, like, one thing about me is sometimes I'm gonna lollygag, I'm gonna take my time. Like, we don't have to be sprinting from thing to thing all the time, so and it kind of goes back to that. If you let your brain rest and you let yourself rest, sometimes that is going to give you the better outcome. If you're always racing to the next thing, you're more likely to miss something and actually not do as good of a job. Yeah.
I had a moment with, I talked to my boss the other day. I think something to do with data. I think we were working on some really complicated project involving data and numbers and things that they're not fun. Not generally. And I remember telling him, hey, I had this idea. It kind of came to me in my sleep. I thought about it going, man, does that mean I was thinking about work in my sleep? It's like, not really. I was just resting and had this really random idea come to me in my sleep for how we could solve a problem. It's like, what do you think about this? But it was like I got an idea that I never would have thought of because I think because I'd shut off for some time, walk away from the problem for a little bit and let your brain rest and kind of catch back up to you. And you end up with something really awesome a lot of times, I think. So absolutely. Hurkle-Durkle and rest and let the mind wander. Yeah.
One thing I kind of want to take the time to highlight too is it kind of goes back to those like toxic leadership podcasts and the toxic advice that I've heard people give. I have heard women say that they don't have time for other women and they kind of discourage female friendships. And I think that their argument is that those friendships like aren't fruitful or something. I can't even wrap my head around it. I can't
Mhm.
even explain why they would make that argument. I hate it so much. I would never discourage anyone from stopping connections with other people, and like don't give up your meaningful connections, especially if you're like a woman who has other female friends. Like, I would never be like, give that up to grind harder. That is,
Mhm.
before I said, oh, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard, I take that back. Giving up friendships to grind harder, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, I'm I'm a really social person, and so for me, rest actually sometimes does mean I need to talk to a friend.
Mm.
Um, I don't need to talk about anything important. I just kind of need you to be there for a moment. You literally don't have to do anything. I just want to have you nearby, and
Yeah.
I get a social recharge from that. Um, I have to, in order to do that thing, I have to make time for that thing. And also, if other people are willing to do the same thing, I think that's the most amazing thing in the world. I agree. This is not something that we should subtract from our
Mhm.
lives. If anything, maybe we should be incorporating it more.
Yeah.
I love. I was about to say I love COVID. That's not correct. It's late at night, everybody. What I was going to say is I love one of the outcomes that came from the year 2020, not COVID. Everybody, do not cut a soundbite of this, anybody, and put this online. He said he loves COVID. Maybe I'll get rid of that part. Probably not because it's funny.
Okay.
Um, One of the things that's kind of nice is we've all found different ways of working. We found that we can um, create value for our companies in different ways with different requirements on us. Um, there's just more flexibility to a lot, not all, but a lot of places of business. The downside, though, is we the challenge is we still have to force ourselves. We have to be intentional
Mhm.
about creating space for connection, but also space for rest.
Mhm.
Because I'm a remote worker, or mostly remote worker now, and I remember in 2020 when I first started doing that, I had to actually have the discipline to make myself stop and rest because I didn't have a signal that would do that. I was at home. It's one thing when you clock out at a job and you're like, everyone's leaving, you got to go. You're almost forced to do it, but then you don't have those guardrails anymore. You have to put them up for yourself, and you know, good or bad, that's where we are right now. Which is part of why I think this topic is timely, and possibly also timeless for folks.
Mhm. Yeah. And I think it kind of goes back to that, like, understanding your mindset and knowing how to shift your mindset if necessary. So on the sister podcast, brAVe Space, had an episode where I talked to Chrissy Sarah. And I don't know if she said this in that episode, but I know from talking to Chrissy, she is also predominantly almost or possibly exclusively a remote worker. And part of what she does for her mindset is her shoes. If she is
Hmm.
wearing shoes, she is at work. If she takes her shoes off or changes to like a house shoe, she's not working anymore. So just these little triggers, kind that, and that, take the time and the space to do that self exploration and ask yourself, like, what does my mind and body need in order to separate work from home, or work time from rest time, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. If you're watching right now, then you'll see I never talk about what's behind me, but I'm a musician. There's a lot of music instruments in my office, and there's a couple of reasons for that. But a big one is that when work is over, if I want to, I can turn around and grab an instrument and play. I don't even have to go anywhere. I take a few steps away from this desk, which actually does sort of feel like I'm not working now.
Right.
It's like that little bit of separation, or I don't take. I generally try not to take like my work stuff into another room. I mean, I do now. Sometimes baby sleeping one place and I've got to have meetings and whatnot. So I do. But before that, generally speaking, I wouldn't, because my work laptop it like represents work. So it doesn't go everywhere with me, having signals is good. Maybe as we potentially come to a close here, I'll add a new concept that I think you've kind of hit on. And I think because you and I have gone through some new stages of life recently, that this is relevant. I read somewhere that one of the ways that people can try to incorporate rest into their lives is to do everything that we said, but also slow down during transitions.
Mm.
So I, the article I read had some specifics about that, but when I read those words, I thought of it in a couple ways. So I'd love to know what this means for you. I'll say the first what it meant for me. Slowing down during transitions makes me think about um, going between uh, going between tasks.
Mm.
So, and task is a hard word to use here, but going between items, context switching. In this moment, I am podcaster Leon, but when we're done, I'm going somewhere and I'm dad Leon, right? Or if I were going into my 9 to 5, I'd be product manager Leon or whatever. Actually, at trade shows, this happens to me constantly. I'm someone over here doing one thing, and then I'm over here like speaking or whatever. Like it's a lot of switching.
Mhm.
For me, the idea of incorporating a rest is finding the space and taking the space between those things, even if I have to rush to them, and doing something to get other things out of my mind,
Mm.
to give myself a second to actually switch gears to whatever I'm transitioning to. Curious what that kind of sounds like for you. What the topic of slowing down during transition sounds like for you.
Yeah. I think similarly, I have to have an active mindset shift and recognize like what do I need to do or feel in order to be prepared to shift into this next thing. And I also bullet journal for a lot of different reasons. Like I keep a lot of stuff in there, but one of the purposes of my bullet journal is to help me with that transition. If I feel like there are any lingering actions or items from one thing to the next, if I at least write it down as a like tangible reminder, like, oh hey, don't let this thing get lost, that makes me
Mhm.
more comfortable to move on to the next thing.
That I gotta start bullet journaling. You've talked about it before, and I'm just like, man, that sounds so cool. Um, I don't even really understand exactly what it is, but it does sound really cool. Um, the I went through a transition for paternity leave. We didn't
Mm.
even I didn't do recordings. I didn't do a lot of things during those about 8 weeks. And the thing that I had to do before I kind of got back into the normal, well, somewhat returned to normal routine, uh, was prioritize the days I had leading up to that, to say I've got to start kind of getting myself ready
Mhm.
for that shift by doing less during the time. So um, there were things that I would just not put on the schedule, even if they were things that could be fun, because I needed to just have empty,
Mm.
and make sure the cup is full before it may have to pour out more than it had been doing. That's another thing that slowing down during transitions kind of signifies for me, or makes me think of, is the big kind of transitions as well. The little ones are great ones to practice for, or to use to practice, so that when you hit those big transitions, it's maybe a little not easier, but it's a concept that you've got going and working. You've got some experience with it. um, it's was it, people say practice makes perfect, but I think there's another one like practice makes something else. I don't know. Uh, oh, failure to prepare is to prepare to fail. That's what it was.
Yes.
Um, yeah, which I think was said by a guitarist. So, you know,
Full
we have,
circle.
yeah, we have good things to say. It's not just things like turn it up to 11. So that's a pretty good one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like, as usual, we could keep going forever, but we promised our listeners that this spin-off, brAVe Skills, typically doesn't go over an easy breezy 30 minutes. So let's go ahead and close ourselves out with some action items. One action item that I'm going to say is, hashtag Hurkle-Durkle.
Mhm.
We're gonna take that. We're gonna encourage good Hurkle-Durkle.
Well, you took mine, but that's fine. We should title this episode, because we gave hot takes. We both gave a hot take, and we talked about Hurkle-Durkles. It should be called Hurkle-Durkles and Hot Takes.
Yes.
I think the really big action item is to internalize this concept that rest does contribute to you being productive. Any statement that says otherwise is false. It is a lie. It is a trap. Rest is necessary to be able to perform your best. And if you're a leader who takes your job seriously as a service to others, I would say really internalize that. It's good for you. It's also good for others if you're super concerned about that too.
Yes. Also to regularly incorporate rest instead of reacting to feelings of burnout or stress. Finding the time in your day, week, month, whatever, a regular cadence of rest.
Mm-hmm. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of brAVe Skills. It's my turn. That's right. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of brAVe Skills, and
you can like and subscribe.
You can like and subscribe. Thank you.
Yep, and there's stars you can leave. Like, there's all sorts of ways to tell us that we're awesome. Unless you didn't like this podcast, in which case you don't have to do any of that, because we don't have to like everything that we try. brAVe Skills is a higher ed AV media production. It is hosted by us, your two goofy goobers, Britt and Leon. And bye.
Deuces. See ya.